Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Stitches Past 5. My name is Vera, and here I like to talk about anything that's going on in my knitting world, or a little bit sometimes in my crocheting world, but today we're definitely going to focus on knitting. So today I want to share some of the Colourwork patterns that have kind of inspired me. So I am a fan of Colourwork, I like Colourwork, but I especially like Colourwork when it's a little bit like different. So these are all patterns that aren't gonna be your traditional like Icelandic Nordic sweater. These are Colourwork sweaters that are gonna make people turn their heads, that are gonna, people are gonna question if that is homemade or if that is store-bought or if that's a designer that made them. And I think that's exactly what makes these patterns so cool. So I really had to share them with you. I have 10 patterns in total. They're all by different designers, and their color works range from probably pretty simple to very intricate. So I hope this is a little bit of inspiration for you. If it is, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and maybe even subscribe. That would really help me out. But without further ado, let's get straight into the pattern. So here are my 10 postmodern colorwork patterns that have sparked my eye in my recent looks or searches for patterns. Okay, we're gonna start off with a monochrome sweater. This one is a turtleneck and it is called the Gudrun Faroese Sweater by Önling. This one is a knitting pattern available for €8.91. I'm gonna give all my prices in euros just because I am located in euros, but US dollars are usually pretty similar, and yeah, then you can, I guess, convert it back to your own currency. So this one is by Önling, which is a knitting pattern website, and this pattern just really stands out because of its beautiful combination of a very sleek looking turtleneck with some very intricate color work throughout the sweater. So it doesn't only feature color work around the lower yoke, but also at the sleeves as well as the bottom of the sweater, all while it's still being a very chic looking turtleneck. I think here the color combination, as with most of these patterns, is key. So I think this sweater really lives off of its monochromatic look. The eyes go straight kind of to the color work that is still part of a very sleek looking sweater that I think could also be dressed up quite nicely to even like wear to the office or even more formally. The gauge of the sweater is 21 stitches in 10 centimeters and 29 rows, and it comes in sizes XS to 3XL. So it's worked on a 4mm and a 4.5mm needle. So I guess it is your typical DK weight sweater. Moving on, I have another sweater by Önling, and this one is kind of that perfect blend of the traditional color work. So this one is an Icelandic colorwork sweater, but with a very modern touch. And that's why I picked it for this list today. And that is the Gerdur, I really hope I'm saying this right, but it is the Gerdur Icelandic Sweater, also by Önling. So this one is really inspired by that traditional Icelandic design, as it follows a round yoke at the top, worked all in color work, but still has that monochromatic feel. So it's worked in 2 colors only, and with the white or the pretty monotonous rest of the body. I just think this one also looks really sleek. I think this is one that can be worn more as like a traditional sweater in color work, but it could also be dressed up like maybe with a blazer or something like that to be made look very modern and very like, maybe not like a traditional fisherman's colorwork sweater that you would kind of know Icelandic sweaters as. Again, this pattern is available on Önling's website, again for €8.91. The sizes that are available are XS to 3XL, and it is also knit in a gauge of 21 stitches in 10 centimeters, also using 4.5mm needles. Okay, so now moving away from the Önling sweaters, I want to share one that is by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and that is the Norma Sweater. So this one again is a bit of a mock turtleneck, or a lot of a mock turtleneck I should say, and it features what at a first what at first glance look like regular stripes, but when you look a little bit closer, it is actually color work because the red dots are actually worked as color work around the stripes. I mean, I guess stripes are technically still color work, but this one does require the two-stranded color work at parts. And this one is called the Norma Sweater, and it comes at a price of €8, can be bought off their website as well. It features a drop shoulder construction, and it is a pretty like relaxed fit, so it does have quite a bit of positive ease. Its gauge is 19 stitches by 27 rows on 10 centimeters using 5mm needles. Available sizes here are XS to XL. Yeah, so I think this one is gonna be one of those sweaters that you can wear any day, maybe a little less formal this one, but it's definitely still features that color work, but in a very modern, relaxed, low-key style. And I think that's really cool about this sweater. It's not really that big in your face like a lot of these others are, and that's still fun and that's still cool. But I think every now and then a more low-key sweater, of course it'll depend on your color choice as with all of these, but this one and these colors shown in the sample are very low-key, and I think that's also a really nice staple to then have in your closet. Moving on, the next one really caught my eye, and I think I favorited this sweater like a pretty long time ago, and I'm so happy that I finally get to share it. I haven't gotten around to making it, but it's definitely on my list, and that is the Mosaic Sweater by Knitting for Olive. This one is essentially a regular drop shoulder constructed sweater, but what really stands out is the monochromatic color work, which is so cool. The color work goes through the entire sweater except for the collar, the finishings at the bottom and at the sleeves, and it really gives that mosaic look, or the name of the sweater suggests. And I think if this sweater is made by someone who has experienced color work, no one's gonna guess that it's handmade. It looks super cool, super intricate, and super modern. Yeah, I think the monochromatic color works are kind of like coming around again, and this I think is one of the prime examples of why exactly these are so cool. This one comes in weird sizing, I have to say. It comes in sizes 1 through 5, so I have no idea, like, I mean, it gives the measurements, but I couldn't tell you if that's XS, XXS, or XL, XXL, 5XL, I have no idea. But the gauge the sweater has is 17.5 stitches by 19 rows and 10 by 10 centimeters in color work with 6mm needles. So this one is actually a little bit of a thicker gauge. It doesn't really look like it from the image, but I guess because the color work is pretty straight lines and pretty straightforward, you can get away with a larger gauge for a pretty, what looks like an intricate color work pattern. So I guess that's pretty cool because it'll work up relatively quickly, I guess, given the fact that it is color work and that it is going to take a lot more time than it would if it was just a plain sweater. Yeah, so it uses also a very big variety of needle sizes. So it uses anything from a 4.5 to 5 and a 6mm needles. So I guess it just, you move around needle sizes as you go along the sweater. The pattern can be purchased again on the website for €5. Next we have one of my favorites, and this might just be the one that I make next, and that is, and I've talked about this many times if you watched my other videos, and that is the Dirty Caramel Sweater by Kutovakika. This is such a showstopper, I say it all the time. I think this is Kutovakika's best work in my opinion. It is so lovely. The color combinations are, oh, chef's kiss. And yes, it is a more traditional colorwork sweater, but in a very modern way. And I think that comes from the colors of the sweater, as well as from the cuffs. The cuffs are a little bit hard to see in the image, but essentially the cuffs are like these, you get the cuff in one color and then like stripes into the sleeve, and I think that's so beautiful and so pretty because it's like a ballooning cuff at the sleeves, and oh, it's just so nice. This one is 4-colored color work, and I think with a maximum of 3 colors per round, so it does require a little bit of experience. It does have a very round neckline, and it is worked bottom to top. So yeah, I think it comes down pretty low in comparison to like a German short row back, but I still think this is such a beautiful sweater, so I will be making it in the near future. The gauge here is 20 stitches by 21 rounds on a 10 by 10 centimeter gauge, and the needles used are 3mm and 5mm, which is also an interesting needle combination because you don't really see a whole needle centimeter size, millimeter size being skipped in a pattern. It comes in sizes XS to 2XL and is also available on Kutovakika's website for €6.90. Next we have the Lene Sweater, or the Lene Sweater. I think it's actually a German pattern, so I think it's Lene, but I'm just gonna say Lene. And so this one is this beautiful mock turtleneck with these colorwork stripes down with little speckles along the stripes that kind of move vertically down from the collar. And it just gives this feeling of the person being like a sun. Like, I looked at the sweater and was like, oh, it's like a sunshine sweater. I think that's so cute, but also pretty modern. I think this one really like hits that sweet spot in the middle of, you know, it could be interpreted as something really fun, like a sun, I guess, but it's also very modern with the vertical stripes. We don't really see those too much in Colourwork. Of course, also to do with the construction of Colourwork makes sense, but I think this one is so cool, and I think the detailing along the cuffs and the bottom of the sweater just kind of like put the cherry on top. Again, I think this one needs to be carefully chosen colors, because if this is like too bright, I think it can quickly get a bit too much. But I think with the muted colors, like it is shown in the sample here, it's a really beautiful sweater. It can be found on Ravelry, and it is at a gauge of 22 stitches by 28 rows, and worked in a 3.5mm and a 4.5mm needle. Comes in sizes XS to 4XL. So I like seeing a big size range. That's always a plus for patterns. And it comes at a price of €5. So that's the Lene Sweater, or I would call it the sunshine sweater if this were my pattern, just saying. Okay, the next pattern is one that really falls into this postmodern feel, like where is Colourwork in knitting gonna go next? I think a lot of this, or a lot of Colourwork in the past, have been zigzag, have been these traditional things kind of around the yoke, and I think it's so cool that we're seeing all these new modern Colourwork designs, and this one I think is the embodiment of that, and that is the Roberta Sweater, designed by Anne Wetzel. It is essentially these really cool, it almost reminds me of the designer Marimeko, I think her name is. She's this big designer. She makes like the poppies, and like I think she does a lot of work for Uniqlo, and you see her everywhere essentially. And I think this is kind of the similar style with the half, how do you describe this? Like the half circles, like the waves almost. And the sample here is actually in 2 colors. I think both are beautiful, both are really visually interesting, although it is a seemingly simple pattern. The gauge here is a pretty big gauge, so it's like a Aran weight gauge, I guess. It's 16 stitches by 23 rows in stockinette in this pattern, and it's worked on a 4, 4.5, and 5mm needle. It comes in sizes XSS, ML, XL, 2XL, and 3XL. So it does group together some sizes, which I'm usually not a big fan of, but yeah, I guess it's all about measuring, and then I guess it'll be a little bit bulkier or a little bit tighter. The sweater does come, or the pattern does come at a price of €8.40, and it can also be purchased either on Ravelry or on her website directly. Oh, and this one is just motivates me to get more into it. Like, I can only make so much, right? So I think that's why I also like sharing these patterns, because maybe if I don't have time for it, someone out there will have time for it, and they'll be able to make it. The next sweater is another perfect sweater for the category of postmodern Colourwork, and that is the Wave Sweater by, I'm gonna butcher this name, by Spektakelstrik. And the designer is Firring. I am so sorry, I probably butchered both the name and the name of the pattern designer. But anyways, The pattern is so cool. It's this oversized, bulky turtleneck sweater with these like extra long sleeves and extra long body construction that features these very cool, almost like handwriting-esque like waves across the entire body. And this one, just for some reason, I feel like this could be at a fashion show. Like maybe it's the way it's modeled in the pattern, but I feel like if this were to, I don't know, be on the cover of some fashion magazine, I'd be like, yeah, that belongs right there. So I think it's really cool that we have access to the pattern to make something like that. Again, here, very bold color choice in the sample that the pattern comes with. Not sure, I would go for light purple or lilac and light green, but I think it's just such an inspiration of like, go for those colors, like go try out something different. I think it would be really easy to make this in like 2 shades of beige or white and black or whatever, but no, like we're shown here that like we can also step outside of our comfort zone in terms of color. Yeah, so this one is also an Aran weight sweater. It is 16 stitches by 20 rows in 10 centimeters, and it's worked on a 4 and a 4.5 millimeter needle, which is very interesting to me because that is a tiny needle for a very big gauge, but I guess the magic is worked by the pattern. The sizes are grouped again. I don't like seeing this, but I know it's difficult designing patterns in general, but it is XS to XXL, and the groupings come XS, then SM, then LXL, LXL grouped, sorry, and then XXL as its own size. And that comes at a price of €8.40, and that can also be purchased directly on Ravelry. Okay, so now we're already getting to the penultimate sweater that I want to share today, and this one is a little bit more low-key. So I've just shared a number of like very out there sweaters in terms of their I don't know, attention drawn to them rating, I guess. And this one is a little bit more low-key, and I think mainly because of the colors used in the sample, but also just like this, the pattern is a little simpler. And that is called the Funky Turtle. I found this pattern because I own the book 52 Weeks of Easy Knits, but it is also available online. It's essentially this like mock turtleneck again with this like, it almost looks like the aesthetic it's going for is at the bottom, and the sleeves are like sewn on by these stitches because the colorwork kind of looks like little like stitches that kind of meant the top part to the bottom part. So I think that's really fun. Again, color choice is key, and I think this pattern again shows us like, go for those colors that you might not think go together. Like I would never choose the green with like a beige kind of. Those are also just not really my colors, but it looks so cool in this sweater. So I think if you learn anything from all these beautiful colorwork sweaters, just like step outside your comfort zone with colors. Yeah, so this one again, it comes in weird sizing. It comes in sizes 1 through 8. Again, it looks to me like it's XS to maybe 3, 4XL. But again, it's a little bit difficult to see. Would be one of those patterns where you really have to measure yourself and then figure out what pattern size 1 through 8 that you need from that, just because it is not really generic pattern sizing. The gauge it uses is 19 stitches by 22 rows on a 10 centimeter stockinette stitch gauge at a needle size of 3.5 and 4 millimeters. And the pattern comes at a price of €6 online, or if you buy it through a website. The book I just bought and it was €30, but of course it included 52 patterns, as the name implies, 52 weeks of easy knits. Okay, and then we're already coming to the last pattern that I want to share today, and this one is also, I think this is a showstopper. It is a little bit more simple because the maximum number of colors used are 2. It also features this high mock turtleneck, I guess a unfolded turtleneck with this oversized feel. It is a raglan colorwork sweater. And again, the colors, chef's kiss, so beautiful. It's sticking to the blue, red, and neutral beige light color colors, and that is called the Inge Sweater Solo by Lene. This one comes in sizes XXS to 2XL. So I do like the smaller size inclusivity as well. Maybe even you could try to knit it for a child. Maybe the XXS would fit like a teenager or a smaller child. So that's always fun. And the gauge is 21 stitches by 24 rows. On needle sizes 2.5 millimeters to 4.5 millimeters. So again, various different needle sizes used throughout this pattern. I guess just the ribbing uses a different needle size than the body and so on and so forth. And the price of this pattern is €6.70. So yeah, that is already it. So that was my breakdown of the many, or of a few of the many. I tried not to put too many because I think too many can already be overwhelming again. But I hope that I was able to give you a little bit of inspiration. Maybe I named a sweater that you really want to make. Let me know in the comments below. I think the main takeaway is be bold with your colors. Like, if you're gonna make Colourwork, go outside of the comfort zone, step outside the box, get other people's opinion, what looks good, what doesn't look good. Because I think I'm someone who is always a little bit wary of like which colors I want to put together and which ones I'm a little bit scared of. But maybe this is my sign that I just need to be a little bit more bold in my colors. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.